Mayor-Elect Zohran Mamdani of New York City just sent the clearest message about where his priorities lie, and it's not with the businesses whose help he needs to fund his agenda. While Starbucks baristas already make $18 an hour on average in New York City, they want $25 an hour, expanded protections, more employees, more everything. And believe me, the business community is watching very, very closely because Mamdani's entire budget depends on the very businesses he's now antagonizing. What happens when the very people he plans to tax pack up and leave? The answer could possibly unravel his entire political future. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell. Let's get started.
And more than 1,000 Starbucks employees are on strike this morning. Workers say they're pushing for higher pay and to eliminate what they call unfair labor practices. The union also says baristas from 40 cities across the country are prepared to make this the, quote, largest, longest strike in company history. Now Starbucks is insisting it treats its baristas well and that the strike only represents a small percentage of the company's workers. ABC's Andrew Dimber has the details for us. Hi, Andrew. So the union says Starbucks refused to offer new staffing and pay proposals. So where do negotiations stand now?
Well, Diane, they're calling this the Red Cup Rebellion. As you mentioned there, over 1,000 unionized Starbucks baristas walking off the job in part because they want a new collective bargaining agreement. But they also accuse the company of failing to negotiate in good faith. They also accuse Starbucks of trying to union bust and say that there are around 700 or so unresolved labor violations. So they're on strike because they want a new collective bargaining agreement, but they also have demands for what they want included in this new contract, which includes better hours and staffing, higher pay, as well as a resolution to some of those labor violations. Now, ABC News has reached out to Starbucks for comment. A spokesperson got back to us and essentially downplayed the strike and faults the union for failing to bargain with the company. And meanwhile, these demonstrators say that they are prepared to make this the longest and largest strike in company history, saying simply no contract, no coffee.
Starbucks had agreed, they had made a commitment, a public commitment that they would be offering a fair contract to workers. And instead what they've offered are 50-cent raises by and large across the board. This is all while they're paying their CEO more than $110 million. A CEO who takes a company private jet to get to and from work much of the time. All while these same workers are being told there's not enough money for them to actually be paid what they're worth.
For just a second, that these baristas are being paid $18 an hour on average in New York City. They want $25 an hour. And what they do for a living is they pour cups of coffee. Let me say that again. They want $25 an hour for pouring cups of coffee. And you hear Mamdani bring up the CEO of Starbucks, that he's making $100 million a year. Again, he reminds me so much of Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Most of this CEO pay are stock. They get paid in stock for a big majority of their compensation. And the reason they get paid in stock is because that's a way for the company to hold them accountable to make sure they're performing. But this man is managing a multi-billion-dollar global operation. These baristas want $25 an hour for pouring coffee, and that's not the total cost of their compensation.
So joining me now is Michelle Eisen. She's been a barista for 15 years and is the spokesperson for Starbucks Workers United. Michelle, thank you for your time today. And I want to start by saying, it's been reported that you've reached a tentative agreement on 33 topics, but the financials and also the staffing and hours have been a sticking point. Why is that, and what are you asking for?
I mean, that's absolutely true. We had some solid 9 months of bargaining with the company back in 2024. The company came to the union and committed to finalizing a fair contract with union workers by the end of 2024. They failed to not only do that, but they also failed to resolve the enormous amount of unfair labor practice charges that are still hanging over their heads. When the union presented the economic portion of our proposals back in October of last year, we presented a slew of options that would ultimately lead to higher take-home pay and fixing the numerous staffing issues within these stores. And the company simply said no and rejected all of them. So the workers were left to deal with nothing or continue to fight. And that's where we are right now.
Can I ask you about specific numbers? A Starbucks representative said that they have on average about $30 per hour in hourly pay and benefits. Now, certainly we've talked and heard from members of your union that report hours that are significantly less and hourly wages that are significantly less than that. But is there a number that you're looking for?
What we're looking for is simply to increase the take-home pay that baristas have. Most Starbucks workers, the starting wage for baristas in most states in the US is actually $15.25 an hour. When Starbucks cites that number of $30 an hour, what they're doing is they're adding up all of their benefits that they potentially offer, and they're saying, we equate this to $30 an hour. That includes something like their Spotify Premium app that they offer to employees. What they don't tell you is that most workers are actually scheduled below the threshold to qualify for these benefits that they wrap into this package. The average Starbucks worker gets about 19 hours a week, which is just below the company set threshold. So they not only control the number of hours that workers get, but then they keep the wages down low as well. So many Starbucks workers have to rely on SNAP and Medicaid to get by, while we've got a CEO who made $96 million for the first 4 months of his employment. So these things are just not adding up. What we need is the company to invest in the workers that open and close these shops every single day, that are the face of the company, that bring in these billions of dollars that they report every year in revenue.
When I hear people complain about working for a billion-dollar company and they're saying they're not getting enough money, oh, the CEO makes all this money, so everyone should be making more money. Here's a really simple solution. If you think you can run a company, a global company, and you can afford to pay all of the workers out there the amount of money you think they should be making, why don't you go out and open up your own version of Starbucks? Why don't you do that? Why don't you show the rest of us how it's done? But she kind of glosses over some things. She says, oh, the average worker makes $15 an hour, but when you add up everything, they say they're paying $30 an hour. That's right, because oftentimes they're paying health insurance. They've got workman's compensation. They've got all these other costs. But let's just take her numbers. I wanted to run these numbers really quickly. Let's use the numbers that she said. The average person works 20 hours a week. They get $30 an hour, all in compensation. And in New York City specifically, you've got about 20 workers who work at a location. So you take 30 times 20 times 52. So that's $30 an hour times 20 employees, and times the 20 hours a week they work, times 52 weeks, times 20 employees. That's $624,000. Now let's add the other $100,000. That's the average salary for the store manager. Now that takes you to $724,000. That's only in wages. And there are approximately 200 Starbucks in New York City. So now let's multiply that times another 200. That takes you to $20,624,000 per year, just in wages. And again, let's remember that Starbucks is spending $20 million in the city of New York to pay people to pour coffee. I just can't wrap my mind around that. But even if you want to just look at it at the store level, just the cost of the employees working an average of 30 hours a week, $30 an hour, all inclusive at 20 hours a week, plus the cost of the store manager, that's $724,000 a year. I think I have a much better way Starbucks could still accomplish all of their goals at their stores, and they could save a ton of money. And I guarantee you Starbucks and companies like them are looking at this solution. Take a look at this. So you see that robot barista. That robot barista doesn't call in late, doesn't call off sick, doesn't have to take long bathroom breaks. It's going to work through an entire shift. It has all the technology so that it can both make the drinks, make the food, clean up behind itself, serve everyone, and it's only $180,000. And this is the reality that individuals who have low skill jobs have to contend with in the 21st century. Companies like Starbucks are not going to continue to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and have all of the costs associated with employing these individuals when they have a solution like this that can just simplify everything that they're doing at a fraction of the cost. You put a robot barista in a store like that, all you have to do is have someone on staff, a technical person, in case it needs to be tweaked or something needs to be done to correct it. You have maybe, even if you had two of them at a cost of $360,000, and we know that the more of these machines that are purchased, the price is going to go down. But you don't have any of the other considerations with which you need to be concerned when you have human employees. And this is the lesson to people out there, to Zohran Mamdani and people like him who are trying to squeeze money out of individuals who have created value, like the Starbucks Corporation. They're not going to continue to pay higher wages when they can go in and get a one-time solution that can possibly replace all or a big percentage of human employees, and something novel for customers to interact with. This is where we're moving. So I think I've talked about this before. When you look at technology and artificial intelligence, yes, jobs are going to be destroyed, but new jobs are going to be created. Individuals need to be preparing for the new jobs of the future rather than listening to people like Zohran Mamdani, who are just feeding them pipe dreams that they're going to go out there and he's going to strike with them so they can get $25 an hour. And then one day $25 an hour isn't enough. Now you need 50, now you need 100. The best way to do that is that you have to get skills that people are willing to pay for. But again, if all you can do is pour a cup of coffee, you're probably not going to make enough money to take care of yourself. I could be wrong, however. Do me a favor, jump into the comment section, but most importantly, subscribe to this channel, leave a like, leave a hype. Let's get this conversation going. Do you think Zohran Mamdani is doing the right thing supporting this strike? And do you think other businesses are paying attention and perhaps making their way towards the exit? Thanks for hanging out for this long. I'll catch you in the next one.